You're welcome to your today's class session. Bello Adewale is my name, and the course we are having today is Business Policy Post 411, which is a 3 unit course. Uh, this course is business policy, and the essence of introducing into this course is in an attempt for us to understand what is business policy and how is policy being linked to business strategy, and how do we use them to achieve our day-to-day business objectives, our day-to-day the vision and the mission of a business organization. So the overview of this course: business policy is central to the operations of varieties of business in different sectors and environments. uh, Business policy is key. Business policy is a broad guide. It's a guideline of how do we achieve this and how do we achieve that objective. How do we achieve this vision? How do we achieve this mission? Business policy usually would guide organization in achieving that and in an attempt to achieve competitive advantage as well. The creation of a policy and the management of its implementation are important in developing businesses that can create and sustain a competitive advantage. I want us to pay attention to the creation and also the management and also the implementation. So, what we are going to be taking ourselves through in the course of this work, we are going to be exposing ourselves to what is policy. We are going to be understanding what are the process and the management of policy and what also are the implementation of such policy, because a policy can be made, can be formulated. A policy that is formulated that is actually not implemented is not complete. It is just the paper until the implementation is done, and also there is some control and evaluation as well. And this will help business to gain competitive advantage. Ideally, the business environment right now is volatile. The business environment right now is highly competitive. The business environment has a lot of forces that influences business. And in view of that, any organization that have their policy right at various levels would actually enjoy competitive advantage over organization who doesn't do it right. And if you have organization who also do it right within the same organization, the question would now be who is doing it in line in a more rational manner. Of course, in the course of this work, we are going to be exposing ourselves to some real case studies and some further analysis to understand what I mean in this regard. So we'll go to uh, the learning outcomes of this study. Learning outcomes basically comes from what do we expect to learn? What do we expect to understand? What are we expected to be able to do after understanding or after undergoing this course? The essence of going through this course is to ensure that students are well equipped in line with the contemporary happenings in the business environment right now as it relates to various organizations as far as policy is concerned. So at the end of this course, students are expected to be able to understand the importance of policy and business, or policy to business, and be able to understand the difference between vision, mission, goals, and objective of business and their applications. There are a couple of people in the layman world, in the in a more layman language. Some people believe vision and mission are the same. Some people believe goals and objectives are the same. But as business graduates, we are expected to be equipped to understand the difference that has existed between business vision, between the mission, between objectives, and between the goals, and as well to understand the interrelationship between the vision, the mission, the goals, and the objective. This course, at the end of this course, every student are expected to understand, to be able to understand the difference between this and also the importance of policy to business. And also, we are expected to evaluate these solutions, analyzing the impact of potential outcomes on the various stakeholder groups. Within the course of this work, we are going to be exposing ourselves to a concept called corporate governance, which establish the roles and the responsibilities of the various stakeholders within the management and the governance of an organization. And in view of that, these various stakeholders, there are various policies that guide them. For instance, in an organization, we have shareholders, we have board of directors, we have employees, we have management. So, what are the relationship between all of these persons? What are the relationship between all of these departments? These are the context that we are going to be looking at our work from, and then we are going to be analyzing the potential outcomes of policies and of problems on these various groups. And then we are expected to be able to assess the importance of social responsibilities and ethics, to be able to explain the concept of business ethics, how ethics relate to business and individual, to be able to define code of ethics and explain the role of managers in setting standards for ethical behavior. Social responsibility, corporate social responsibility, has to do with what an organization is giving back into the society, and what policy of an organization is guiding that is what we are expected to learn here. We are expected to learn what is corporate social responsibility. We are expected to learn what is ethics. We are supposed to learn what is ethical conduct within and outside an organization that is expected of any organization whatsoever that is in an ideal situation. So these are the learning outcomes. Students are expected to understand the concept of corporate social responsibility or business responsibility, as the case may be. They're expected to understand what are the various advantages of that, what are the various disadvantages of that. They are also expected to understand ethics and the application of ethical and unethical practices within the business sector. Then also we are expected to be able to analyze alternative strategy for business development in differing operating context. So you see, operating context differs from one organization to another organization. So the essence of this course is for us to be able to understand clearly what are the various strategies that are applicable, that are usable, that are efficient, that are effective for various organizations. This course is expected to equip us as students to understand these various outcomes, to understand these various strategies, and to also use them and apply them for business development, as the case may be. We also this course is supposed to equip us in generating alternative solutions to complex problems which well researched rationale in order to achieve critical success. Of course, when we say alternative solutions, the essence of alternative solutions is to say, for instance, one way does not lead to the market. One way doesn't lead to the market means that when organizations are faced with different problems, it is the responsibilities of the managers of those organizations to provide various alternative solutions that will be identified, that will be analyzed, that will now be selected and implemented in an attempt to achieve organizational goals, an attempt to achieve organizational objectives. So this is the essence of this course, to be able to enable and equip students in generating alternative solutions, and also to be able to explain the concept of corporate governance, as I said earlier, and understand the various relationship between the concept, and also to be able to explain the various functions of board of directors and various stakeholders like shareholders, like employees and management within the corporate governance, and also to understand the key dimension of strategic management, strategy analysis, strategy evaluation, choice and implementation. These are the areas that these are the outcomes that we are expected that students are to achieve in the course of this work. So for this work, we are going to be looking at the first module. The first module looks at the concepts and issues in business policy. This is the first chapter and the first session of this class that will be introducing us to the definitions and the objectives of policies. The various definitions from different scholars. What is the definition that we can come up with? What definition can be inferred from the various definitions of scholars? What can we bring out? What is unified? What is differing among the opinions of the various scholars? This will be identified in understanding the concepts, and then also what are the objectives of policy? What objectives are policy designed to achieve? This will be designed here. This will be explained here, and I believe we are going to be able to understand what are the various objectives of policy. Furthermore, we are going to be looking at business policy formulation. How do we formulate policy? What are the source of formulating business policy? How are business policy formulated? What are the process of formulating a business policy? This is what we are going to be looking at here. And then a policy that has followed the right process, are we going to say such policies are rational? The ones that did not follow the right procedure, are we going to say they are irrational? These are the aspects that we are going to be looking at in the course of this work. And we are going to be looking at the functions, the importance, the characteristics, the advantages, the limitations, and the principles of business policy. This is what we are going to be looking at in the first module. We are going to be looking at what are the functions. How important is policy to an organization? Can an organization do without policy? Because the essence of looking at importance of policy is for us to know what is the importance of this policy to business. If business does not have a policy, does that mean they cannot succeed in the market? Does that mean things will not go as planned? Business who doesn't have policy, do they mean they have not been successful? This is what we are going to be identifying here to understand what is the importance, what are the characteristics, then what are the advantages, and then what are the limitations, and how can those limitations be ameliorated in line with the contemporary business practice. And also we are going to be looking at the various difference between public and business policy process. Of course, the context you'll be looking at policy at for instance, we are going to be looking at our policy from business perspective, from management of business perspective, not necessarily management of public organization. This might actually relate more to administration, but however, we are going to be looking at the difference that exists between the two, and also what are the similarities between public policy and business policy, and we'll begin to understand the context of studying this model. Then to the next slide, we are going to be exposing ourselves to the concept of corporate governance, how organizations manage their affair, manage decision making of an organization. This is what we mean by corporate governance. And under this concept, you are expected to understand what corporate governance means, what is corporate governance, and what are the importance of this corporate governance to organization, and what is the need for corporate governance in an organization. Furthermore, we are going to be looking at the stakeholder and participants in corporate governance. Corporate governance, of course, is a concept, but the people that are involved in this corporate governance, in governing the affairs of an organization, who are these people? I've made mention of that earlier in the course of introducing the course. As I said, we have board of directors, we have the shareholders who are the owner of the business, we have management who are at various levels of the organization, and we also have employees who are employed in an attempt to achieve the objectives, the goals, the mission, and the vision of an organization, both in the short term and in the long term. Then also we are going to be looking at understanding the roles and responsibilities of these various stakeholders. Of course, there are various stakeholders which I have mentioned just now. This corporate governance topic is going to enable us to understand what are the differences, what is the boundaries for their responsibilities, what are the responsibilities of the board of director. Does it intertwine, or is it different? Is it differentiated from the responsibility of the shareholders? What of that of the employees and that of the management? We need to understand the difference that exists between these various participants, and what are the relationships again, because of course they are, even though their objectives or their responsibilities are different, they are going to be working towards a unified goal. They are going to be working towards a unified mission and vision, and then there's expected, what is expected at this level is some level of integration and some level of coordination in the course of the study. Then we are also going to be evaluating the relationship among the stakeholders and also their implications to business decision making process. What we are looking at now is what is corporate governance, and what are the importance of corporate governance, who are the participants of corporate governance, and how does their participation affect the decision making process and achievement of goals and objectives of an organization. Then that takes us to the third module within this course, which is business ethics. Business ethics. If I may quickly introduce you to the concept of ethics. Ethics simply means what is right and what is wrong. It differentiates what is right from what is wrong in the course of implementing our day-to-day activities, our day-to-day business activities. So doing what is right or doing what is wrong. You know, what is right is actually distinct from what is wrong, or what is rational is distinct from what is irrational in the course of our day-to-day business activities. So here we are going to be expose ourselves to understanding the concept of business ethics. What does business ethics entails? What are the various definitions of business ethics? What are the implications of business ethics? This is what we are going to be looking at under here. We are going to be looking at the various types and the various forms of business ethics. What are the various form of business ethics? How does ethics apply to the various stakeholders within within an organization or in a corporate governance settings, okay, what ethical conduct, what unethical conduct are acceptable from the various persons that we have actually identified earlier. What are the various ethical conduct that is expected from the shareholders to the business, from the board of directors to the business, from the employees to the business, from the management to the business. We are going to look at it from this context, like the types and the form of business ethics, varying business ethics perspective. Of course, in management there are various perspectives to everything, just as it is clear that in management there are different school of thoughts. So the same as the way there are different school of thoughts for management theories, there are also different school of thoughts for ethics. So there are varying business ethics. There are various scholars and authors that have different opinion about what ethics is and different perspective. This is what we are going to be looking at here. We are going to be looking at the source of ethical views. What makes an activity or an action of an individual ethical? The question we begin to ask ourselves. We are being told that this is right. We are being told that this is wrong. Then the question would be, what differentiates them? Who told us it was not correct? How did we come up? Is it the societal factors or the society values that tell us that this thing is not right? What is telling us that this is not correct? So is it the policy of the organization that is saying is not correct? It is the external body? Is it the governmental relations or the governmental laws and regulation that is saying this is not correct? Is it the traditional view? Is it the customary understanding of what is right and what is wrong? This is what we are going to be looking at in the sources of ethical views. What are the various sources? What is making us think that this concept or this activity is ethical? What is making us think this activity is right? What is making us think this activity is wrong? This is what we are going to be looking at here. Then the code of ethics and the code of utilitarianism, and also we will be looking at understanding the unethical business practices and the way out. Of course, in Nigeria of today, in the business world of today, there are a couple of unethical practices across the business supply chain, from suppliers to their clients, from the clients to the customers, from the customers to the consumers. There are a couple of unethical practices across board. We want to identify what are these unethical market practices, what are these unethical business practices, what are the unethical business practices to employees, what are the unethical business practices to staffs, to board of directors, what are the unethical marketing practices to customers, what are the unethical practices to the government. These are what we are going to be looking at, unethical, and way out of it. We are going to be recommending from the studies of previous researchers and previous scholars on how unethical business practices has affected business, on how unethical business practices has affected the society, on how unethical business practices has affected the employees, and what are the way outs. This is what we are going to be looking at in the course of this context. Then, this takes us to business social responsibilities. Social responsibilities simply is aligned with the expectation of the society, the expectation of business stakeholders from the business itself. Of course, business does not exist in a vacuum. Business exists in a particular environment, and the activities within that environment influences the success and the failure of an organization. So business social responsibility relates basically to giving back to the society where an organization has benefited from. Of course, an organization that has benefited from an employee, it is the basic responsibility of that organization to give back to the employee. A business organization that has gotten something from the shareholders in terms of investment, it is the basic business responsibility for that organization to put something back for the shareholders in terms of dividends. An organization that has gotten monies from customers to supply a particular product, it is the responsibility of such organization to in turn give back to the customer a qualitative product that is affordable without imbibing any sort of unethical practice. So this is what we are looking at, how responsible organizations are expected to be to the various stakeholders within the confines of their activities. So here we are going to be trying to understand the concept, the perspectives, the arguments, the approaches to social responsibility. Of course, when I say understanding the concept, this would come with understanding the various definitions. What are the definitions of social responsibility, and what consensus can we come up with? How can we understand from a unified, even though there are no uniform definition, how can we come up with a unified type of definition that can fit into business policy in an attempt to suit the context of this work? Perspective and arguments for social responsibility. Of course, there are scholars who believe social responsibility in itself is irresponsible, is expensive, is unnecessary, and is needless for an organization. Some scholars believe this. Also, some scholars have argued that any business that has not engaged in putting something back into the society that has invested in them are irresponsible. So we will be juxtaposing and making comparison between these two contexts, between these two arguments. What are the arguments for social responsibilities, and what are the arguments against social responsibility? We are going to be looking at social responsibility within that context, and also the various approaches to social responsibility. Furthermore, as I said earlier, we are going to be looking at social responsibility to business stakeholders, what are the social responsibility to shareholders, what are the social responsibility to employees, what are the social responsibility to customers, what are the social responsibility to management and suppliers, among other factors. Especially, I think what is missing here is the government. What is expected from a business to the government? What is expected from a business to the stakeholders? What is expected from a business to the shareholders, to the employees, and the customers? I've actually made a clue or an hint. I've given an hint about this earlier, where I talk about what is expected in terms of dividend to the shareholder, what is expected in terms of salaries and bonuses and some other benefits to the employees, what is expected in terms of qualitative products, in terms of giving customers product that is worth the price, in terms of competitive pricing, in terms of not pricing in an attempt to send away your competitor within the market, or in an attempt to dissatisfy the customer, or in an attempt to malign some customers and employee within an organization. This is to check, to put in check what is expected in terms of responsibility for an organization to the various stakeholders. This is what we are going to be looking at in terms of the various responsibilities to the stakeholders. Furthermore, we are going to be looking at the importance of social responsibility to business profitability and to sustainability. Of course, we want to look at it, even though some scholars have come up with the fact that social responsibility is expensive. They have come up with the fact that social responsibility is unnecessary. They have come up with the fact that social responsibility is needless. Furthermore, or however, some other scholars believe that social responsibility is responsible. It is ideal. In an ideal situation, organizations are expected to give something back to the stakeholders. So even though by the time we argue, it is expected for our students to now begin to relate back to us, feed us back. What do you think? Would you think social responsibility is responsible? Will you think giving something back to the stakeholder is also irresponsible? This will be part of the interactions that we are going to be having in the course of the work. And then how is it important to profitability? How does social responsibility affect profitability? And how does it affect the sustainability of business within the industry? A business that has made provisions of some budgetary provision to social responsibility. Are we saying that this will affect their profits? Are we saying that this will affect their sustainability? Are we saying that this will further improve the confidence and the trust and the image, which will further bring in more customers, which will further bring in more clients, which will further give them some better goodwill in the face of the people? Are we saying one has outweighed one? Are we saying there's a negative impact on profitability and sustainability? Are we saying something is positive? This is where we are going to be arguing the various perspective and the submissions of scholars as regards social responsibility to business profitability, and as well to sustainability of business. Then, furthermore, the concluding part of this work will be looking at strategy and strategic management. You see, strategy and strategic management. Why policy is important here is because of the interrelationship of policy, of strategy, and of strategic management. Because strategy and action plan in the hands of the management that is being used to achieve goals and objectives. Policy is the guide. It is the guide of activities and organization which will help organization to achieve the the business objectives, which can also be achieved by various strategies at various levels. So there's some level of interrelationship. There's some level of synchronization between these various concepts, and this is what we are going to be looking at here. We are going to be looking at strategy, and then we are going to be looking at the understanding the meanings, the differences, the relationship between strategy and strategic management. It is ideal for us to understand at this junction that strategy is not the same with strategic management. But in the course of this work, we are expected to understand the difference. What differentiates strategy? Strategy is in the hands of strategic manager. It is a strategic manager that provides strategy. So we want to understand what is the difference between the various and what is the relationship between strategy and strategic management, and also we'll be looking at the relationship between strategy and strategic management. The level of strategy. As I said earlier, policy is at various levels. Management is at various levels. So when I say management is at various levels, what it means again is that strategy is also at various levels. There's level to this strategy thing. We have strategy at the corporate level, we have strategy at the business unit level, and we have strategy at the tactical and operational level. So when you have strategy at these various levels, what it means is that what is the implications of this strategy in achieving one particular common goal. So we have a common goal to achieve so in 20 years, and this is our mission to guide us to achieve our vision, and this is the objectives that we have set out. What strategy are we adopting in the various aspects of our work? So this is what we are going to be exposing ourselves to the level and to the type, and we are going to be looking at the characteristics of strategic management before we can conclude that this is strategic management. What does it have to take? What are the features? What are the the image that is portrayed? What are the various activities that are carried out before we can say truly this is strategic management in play? Is it long term? Is it short term? Is it medium term? How is strategic management coming into play? And what is the implication for management? This is what we are going to be looking at here. We are going to be understanding the difference between vision and vision statement. Even though in the initial stage we have said we are going to understand that in the beginning of the course, here under strategy, we are also going to be bringing them in an attempt for us to understand that strategy is what we are going to use, is what we are going to adopt to achieve our mission and to achieve our vision. The benefits and limitation of strategic management, we are going to be looking at that here. What is the importance of strategic management to business? What are the limitations? Of course, everything that has advantage must have disadvantages. So we want to look what are the limitations of this strategic management. Then furthermore, we are going to be looking at the benefits. Then we are going to be looking at strategy formulation, implementation, and control. Strategic formulation, implementation, and control. The process. How do we formulate strategy? How are strategy developed? When strategy are developed, how do we then implement them? Then when they are implemented, how do we then follow up with the control to see if truly they have met up with the goals that we want to achieve, with the objectives or the vision or the mission that we want to achieve? If they have not achieved it, what do we do? Did we meet the expectation? Did we meet the set target? If the targets were not met, then what can we do in an attempt to re-strategize or to reevaluate our strategic process in terms of the implementation, in terms of the formulation, and in terms of the control again? Then this will take us to environmental scanning. Of course, strategy formulation. Strategy formulation will expose us to the various ways where strategies are being formulated. It can be inside out, it can be outside in. What are the source of our formulation? Furthermore, in the context of this work, we are going to be looking at environmental scanning and SWOT analysis. This will help us understand the various environments, external environments that the organization has existed, technology, technological environment, political environment, legal environment, the economic environment, the competitive environment. We want to look at the various environments the organization has existed and how are they affecting business. This is environmental scanning, and what are the various opportunities. This environmental scanning are usually achieved with SWOT analysis. SWOT analysis here, S is for strength, W is for weakness, O is for opportunity, T is for threat. SWOT analysis will help us understand what are the strengths and weaknesses of our organization internally. What strength do we have? How many staffs do we have? How much do we have in terms of our capital? How many product line do we have? This is our strength. What is our weaknesses would now be what is our financial limitations? What are our product deficiencies? What are our skilled manpower deficiencies? This is in terms of weakness. Then we come to opportunities and threats, which is now external. What is the opportunity bringing? What is the environment bringing? What are the opportunities that we can see in the economic environment, in the economic environment or the technological environment or the competitive environment? What is our competitors not doing right? If our competitors are not doing something right, it is ideal for us to see that as an opportunity. Then we now come to the issue of threat. Of course, threat is also external to the business. Just for instance, coronavirus, COVID-19 has posed a lot of serious threat externally to the business because it is beyond the control of the organization. Strength and weaknesses are within the control, while opportunity and threat are outside the control. So in the course of this work, these are the areas that we are going to be exploring. These are the issues that we are going to be discussing, and we are going to be doing that together in an interactive manner. And then I believe for this course, you have attendance. For this course, you have tests. For this course, you also have examination, which has been allotted in different marks. We have our examination at about 70%. Attendance and your CA, continuous assessment, serves as about 30%. And I hope that in the course of this work, we'll be able to achieve the learning outcomes of the study, which would help us further to develop ourselves better as managers, to develop ourselves better as students and as business graduates. So thank you.